to just start off with a quote from Maya Angelou, who said, "How important it is for us to recognize and celebrate our heroes and sheroes." The League of United Latin American Citizens is the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization in the country. So you may be wondering, why are we doing a veterans event? Well, for your information, our organization was founded by veterans, and we have a very, very close connection to all veterans across the country. Also, as a point of interest to a Hispanic organization is that Medal of Honor recipients, Hispanics have the largest number, which was interesting to me when I looked that up, of all Medal of Honor recipients. It's a proud honor for all of us. If what President John F. Kennedy said is true, a nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers. There's no better time or place to do that than right here and right now with all of you. I believe this room holds a representation of the highest standard of military service in Ventura County. I see many of you here. I see you at many events, and we are so honored you joined us today. In addition to those in our midst, let us not forget those who have gone before us or who are still missing. I am reminded of a couple of thousand notable veterans, recipients of the Medals of Honor, including Secretary Edward Hidalgo. He was the first Hispanic Secretary of the Navy. Any Navy vets here tonight?
Oh yeah.
His lengthy military career started during World War II, and in 1979 he was nominated by President Carter to be the Secretary of the Navy, and one big goal of his was to recruit more Hispanic Americans into the Navy. Another notable veteran, Sergeant Rafael Peralta, Mexican-born immigrant. Sergeant Peralta served in the Marine Corps. Any Marine Corps veterans here? He served valiantly during the second invasion of Fallujah in Iraq, and ultimately gave his life to protect his fellow Marines by absorbing the blast of a grenade. The Navy christened a destroyer in his honor, USS Rafael Peralta DDG 115. One other very notable person that many of us are familiar with in Ventura County, Alfred Rascon, was born in Chihuahua, Mexico in 1945 as the only child of Alfredo and Andrea Rascon. The Rascon family, in search of a better life, immigrated to the United States. They settled in Oxnard, California. I bet Supervisor Zaragoza knows this family, right? On August 1963, he graduated from Oxnard High School and enlisted in the United States Army. Any Army veterans here? He was assigned to the medical platoon and served in the Republic of Vietnam. In 1967, he became a naturalized United States citizen. I also want to mention someone from the female gender, Army First Lieutenant Sharon Ann Lane, who died from shrapnel wounds in 1969 when the 312th Evacuation Hospital in Vietnam was hit by rockets. No words can describe our gratitude to our veterans. And we hope this humble recognition event today will express that gratitude that we all feel at LULAC District 17. At this time, I would like to introduce Councilmember Jim Hensley, who will act as our Master of Ceremonies. Jim?
Thanks, Laura, so much. This lady is fabulous. She's not only a union leader, she gets involved in everything, former city council person herself, and she's also our district director of the League of United Latin American Citizens. Let me get my notes over here. I am so glad that you all showed up tonight. This is wonderful. And I see the Vietnam veterans standing at parade rest over here. This is... I'm going to make a couple of quick comments. I see a lot of you have your hats on, and I started looking at hat protocol, wondering how I should wear this hat for the disabled American veterans. Oh, shut up. Why would somebody call me now?
He's a little salty. You'll have to forgive him.
Okay, I'll get it taken care of. I have been bothered by how veterans have been treated since they came back. A lot of us get lip service. A lot of people say, thank you for your service. And that makes me feel good. But what happens when Congress comes around, what happens when you put a claim into the Veterans Administration, it don't happen then. They forget about us. And that's not good. So I wear this hat in official ceremonies to let people know this is a statement hat by the protocol that I looked up on the internet. You have a comfort hat, baseball cap, whatever, like Pete has over here, with it back because he was a photographer. But that's one thing to wear inside. But a hat that makes a statement for everybody. And particularly the veterans need to make a statement that Congress, that the Veterans Administration has to start taking care of us. I have too many friends that are dying. Too many friends have already died, as you have too. So that's my little speech to that part. Presentation of the colors tonight is the VFW Mercer Prioto Post number 2043. Are you ready? Stand for the colors. Now also, well, before just they come out, the National Defense Act of 2009 says that veterans can, even though they're not in uniform and civilians now, salute. In fact, they're kind of encouraged to salute. Likewise, in 2010, they had added that amendment so that you salute during the flag. So I encourage all veterans, when the colors come out and when we do the flag salute, that you present your colors, okay? Are we ready, gentlemen?
Under guard. Oh. Left. Face. Present. Arms.
And now, an actress is going to sing, Elaine McDonald. She's an actress, she's an opera singer, and she's also married to a council person. Would you like to come up and have the microphone, Lorraine?
Just leave it there.
There she is. Thank you so much. Let me get my phone turned off while I'm at it.
Hello.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Horn. Please assume your position.
Invocation.
Oh, invocation, that's right. Oh, Reverend, and I got his first name here, but I don't have his last name.
Look off to your right.
Okay. Could the Reverend come up, please? Tom Dolan. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I wondered what was going on there. Appreciate that.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we come together. We give thanks for the blessings that we have had. We acknowledge the sacrifices that we have made. We remember all that has been done, that we may preserve our peace, our sanctity, that we may protect our families, that we may show how much we love those around us, that we may also know that this great country, which is truly supported by all those who fight and support her, and all those who have truly accomplished that, are here today. Those who have, through the many events and wars, have gone before us, those who are missing, that we may truly give recognition to all of them, be thankful for all that they have provided us, so that we may always live in the land of the free and always acknowledge the land of the brave. And we ask you, Heavenly Father, to bless us this evening as you may bless our nation and guide us always according to your will. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Honor guard. Attention. Right face. Right forward. Right shoulder. Turn. Forward. Turn.
Now, I'd like to introduce some of our dignitaries here tonight. And if you will stand up as I call your name. Mayor Jimmy Crosswhite, Santa Paula. Jimmy, not Jimmy, Jimmy. That's what happens if your hearing get blows out, okay? You only hear certain parts of the word. Also, the fantastic Supervisor John Zaragoza. Louis Sanchez, a veteran. Louis. Pardon? Oh, this is the column, okay. Bill Gallagher, Chief of Staff for John Zaragoza. Paul Grossgold, Chief of Staff. Paul here? Pardon?
Supervisor Long's office.
Supervisor Long's office. Not here? Councilman Martin Hernandez is here. We all know him. He's another veteran. Double duty, she says. You do this part. You know this.
I know, it gets a little nerve-wracking up here, especially because we don't want to miss any dignitaries. So, Council Member Martin Hernandez, for those who are out of town and may not know, also serves as aide to our Supervisor Kelly Long. Kelly Long, I believe, was going to be here tonight and may show a little bit later. Is that right?
Possibly, yes. Thanks,
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay. We also have Angelica Cisneros from Assemblywoman Monique Limon. Is it Angelica here? Thank you. Most of our electeds are either in Washington or in Sacramento today, so it isn't often that we can, during a weekday, get one of our elected officials to attend unless there are local beloved council people. So thank you for coming as their representatives. We did talk, let's see, I do also have here Council Member Brian McDonald from the City of Oxnard. Veronica Gonzalez, who is representing Mike Powers, the CEO of the County of Ventura. And of course, our representative, Congresswoman Julia Brownlee, who is in Washington working on behalf of all of us, and her representative is Daniel Dominguez. Daniel? Thank you very much, Daniel.
Oh, Corona, Naval, somebody help me real quick on this?
Our commander and our naval
Is that what it
officials,
says, Commander?
well, our guest speakers.
Our guest speaker. Stand up anyway, please, sir. Thank you, Commander. We'll be hearing a lot more from them in a little while. Now, we have some kind of a serious little part of this program. I'm going to call Ron Fitzgerald from the Vietnam Veterans Organization to come up and do his presentation on the missing man table. It's kind of brings tears to some people's eyes. So, bear with us, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Good evening. My name's Ron Fitzgerald. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for the Vietnam Veterans of Ventura County. It's a pleasure to see everybody here. The students for the band, great job. And I'm going to do the history and origin of the POW-MIA flag. Anybody not ever seen the POW-MIA flag? Newt Heisley was a pilot during World War II, a dangerous role that accounts for many wartime POWs and MIAs. Years after the war, he had come to New York looking for work. It took me 4 days to find a bad job at low pay, he later said. Sounds like now. But by working hard, by 1971, he had gradually moved upward in the industry, eventually working for an agency with many national accounts. As a veteran, the call for a flag designed to raise awareness of our nation's POWs and MIAs was a personal challenge. It was even more challenging when he considered that his oldest son, Jeffrey, was, during these Vietnam War years, training for combat with the United States Marines at Quantico, Virginia. As he pondered this new challenge, a series of events set in motion the ideas that would create a flag unlike anything since the days of Betsy Ross. First, Jeffrey became very ill while training for combat. The illness, diagnosed as hepatitis, ravaged his body, emaciating his face and structure. When he returned home, medically discharged and unable to continue further, his father looked in horror at what had once been a strong, young man. Then, as Newt looked closer at his son's gaunt features, he began to imagine what life must be like for those behind barbed wire fences on foreign shores. Slowly he began to sketch the profile of his son, working in pencil to create a black and white silhouette. As the new flag's design was created in his mind, barbed wire, a tower, Most prominently, the visage of a gaunt young man became the initial proposal. Then, in 1971, Mrs. Mary Hoff, an MIA wife and member of the National League of American Prisoners and Missing in Southeast Asia, recognized the need for a symbol for our POWs and MIAs. Prompted by an article in the Jacksonville, Florida Times-Union, Mrs. Hoff contacted Norman Riefkees, Vice President of Annan and Company, that had made a banner for the newest member of the United Nations, the People's Republic of China, as part of their policy to provide flags to all UN members. Mrs. Hoff found Mr. Riefkees very sympathetic to the POW-MIA issue. Newt Heisley's black and white pencil sketch was one of several designs considered for the new flag. Newt planned, should his design be accepted, to add color at a later date, perhaps a deep purple and white. In the advertising industry, you do everything in black and white first, then add the color. Mr. Heisley's proposal for the new flag was unique. Rarely does a flag prominently display the likeness of a person. Nonetheless, it was the design featuring the gaunt silhouette of his son Jeffrey that was accepted. And before Mr. Heisley could return to refine his proposal and add the colors he had planned, the black and white flags were already being printed in quantity. Though the POW-MIA flag has been produced in many other colors, often in red and white, the black and white design became the most commonly used version. Following the league approval, the flags were manufactured for distribution. The design for the POW-MIA flag was never copyrighted. It became a flag that belongs to everyone, a design that hauntingly reminds us of those we dare not ever forget. Behind the black and white silhouette is a face we can't see, the face of a husband, a father, or a son who has paid with their freedom for our freedom. Beneath the image are the words, "You are not forgotten." The flag's gone through some slight modifications from the original design. The flag's black, bearing in the center, in black and white, the emblem of the League. The emblem is a white disc bearing the black silhouette of the bust of a man. Watchtower with a guard holding a rifle, and a strand of barbed wire. Above the disc are the white letters POW and MIA. Framing a white five-pointed star. Below the disc is a black and white wreath. Above the white motto, "You are not forgotten." In 1989, a POW-MIA flag, which flew over the White House on the 1988 National POW-MIA Recognition Day, was installed in the United States Capitol Rotunda as a result of legislation passed overwhelmingly during the 100th session of Congress. The leadership of both houses hosted the installation ceremony in a demonstration of bipartisan congressional support. This POW-MIA flag, the only flag to be displayed in the United States Capitol Rotunda, stands as a powerful symbol of our national commitment to our POW-MIAs until the fullest possible accounting for the American still missing in Southeast Asia has been achieved. Other than Old Glory, the POW-MIA flag is the only flag ever to fly over the White House, having been displayed in the place of honor on National POW-MIA Recognition Day since 1982. The flag will be flown on the grounds or the public lobbies of major military installations as designated by the Secretary of Defense, all federal national cemeteries, the National Korean War Veterans Memorial, the National Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the White House, United States Post Offices, and at official offices of the Secretaries of State, Defense, and Veterans Affairs, and Director of the Selective Service System. Now the flag not just flies on those specific days, but everywhere year-round. Now, with the help of our Vice President of the Vietnam Veterans of Ventura County, Howard Tinch, we will perform the Missing Man Table and Honor Ceremony. As you entered, you may have noticed a special table. It's reserved to honor our missing men and women. Some here were very young or not yet born when the Vietnam War began. However, all Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our nation's call and served the cause of freedom in a special way. I'll now explain the meaning of the items on the table as my fellow brother in arms sets it. The table is round to show our everlasting concern. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single red rose reminds us of the lives of these Americans and their loved ones and friends who keep the faith while seeking answers. The yellow ribbon symbolizes our continued uncertainty, hope for their return, and determination to account for them. A slice of lemon reminds us of their bitter fate, captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families, who long for answers after decades of uncertainty. The lighted candle reflects our hope for their return, alive or dead. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain us and those lost from our country, founded as one nation under God. The glass is inverted to symbolize their inability to share a toast. The chair is empty, representing the missing. Currently, there are 72,975 still unaccounted for from World War II. 7,716 Americans remain unaccounted for from the Korean War. And 1,602 American servicemen and civilians that are still unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. Will you all please rise? Let us now bow our heads and join me for a moment of silence for the American POW MIAs and to the success of our efforts to account for them and to the safety of all now serving our nation. And salute. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure and our organization's pleasure to have us there and do this.
Okay, we have a gentleman from the state part of LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens. And we just had Danny Carrillo walk in. Danny, you want to stand up and say hi to everybody? Former Marine? No, there's never a former Marine, always a Marine. Okay, and a SEIU district representative. If we could call Dave Rodriguez up to the stand here, he's going to give us some history on the League of United Latin American Citizens.
I promise this won't take long. Good evening and thank you for attending the LULAC District 17 recognition this evening. My name is Dave Rodriguez. I'm the organization's state president of California. Greetings to all of you from our LULAC members in California. We're a national civil rights organization. We've been in existence for 88 years. Our mission is to advance the educational attainment, economic condition, health, civil rights, and political empowerment of the Latino community in California and throughout the country. But we help everybody. Everyone's welcome in our organization, regardless of ethnicity, so we welcome you to join. As I said, we are 88 years old this year, and we are very proud of the organization and what it's been able to accomplish for us. We were founded in 1929 in Corpus Christi. We have grown to about 1,200 chapters throughout the country. We have a Washington, D.C. office that handles policy issues. And it's a really great organization. But it's based, as our district director, Bar Spinoza, said, in veterans issues created by veterans, particularly those after World War II. So we are very, very humbled. In past years, some may have overlooked the importance of your service to our nation. But I can assure you that we are deeply appreciative of the sacrifices that you and your families made on behalf of our nation. And it's wonderful to see you here tonight for us to shed at least some semblance of honor for what you all did for our country. Thank you for your outstanding and courageous service to our country. Thank you for your dedication to freedom. And thank you for allowing us to honor your service to our country this evening. Thank you.
Now my program states, Laura has something for me. Did we miss any dignitaries while latecomers other than Danny Carrillo come in? No? Okay. So Laura, we're about ready to have dinner, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And I understand the students are going to serve us?
Please stay at your tables. Our Santa Paula High School students will bring the plate to you.
That's kind of nice, isn't it? Huh? So while we're doing it, I want to bring in somebody else too. Mr. Bob Allen. Bob, could you come over here? Just leave your camera run. I'm serious. Come on over here. Get over here. Quit being shy. We got a little lull here while the food comes out. This is Bob Allen. He is the principal of KADY Internet TV. I've known the guy for 15 years, 10 years now. He's a dedicated guy. And Bob, tell us what you're doing and how people can see this afterwards.
Well, the first thing is the website kadytv.com or .net will have a link for tonight's presentation that was just done. But what we're trying to do, and we're working with all of the schools, teaching the students how to do a digital broadcasting in the hope that they will create a a whole network of broadcasting all their own high school sporting events. We're teaching them how to do that through the new Career Education Center, which is the old ROP program. And we are working with people here in Santa Paula, and hopefully we'll get something started here so that next year all the Santa Paula high school athletic games can be seen all over the world.
And I just got word that Peggy Kelly is here from the Santa Paula Times. Is that correct? Peggy, where are you? This lady does a lot of work for Santa Paula and veterans and everybody else, so we really appreciate what she does. Pardon?
I'll give it to you.
Debbie Johnson from Santa Paula. You want to come up here and say hi real quick? There she is. She's shy, but she's a good rider. We've got a switch in it, okay? So let the food begin. Thank you so much. We're going to be hearing from, as we start to eat and everybody gets somewhat settled down, Commander Rafael Miranda from the U.S. Navy. So, thank you. Enjoy your food. We'll be back to you in a little while.
I am going to go around the tables to sell the tickets. Remember, there's a very nice 50-50 raffle going on. So the tickets are $1. If you buy $5, I'll give you one free. If you buy $10, I'll give you 4 free. And if you buy $20, I'll give you 10 free. So please participate in the 50-50 raffle.
We know he's an Annapolis graduate, so to me, that makes him one of the most fantastic people I can meet in the military. But I don't know a lot about him, and we didn't have a chance to get everything put together, so I'm going to ask the commander to come up and tell his biography. So I now present Commander Rafael Miranda. Thank you, sir.
Can you guys hear me back there? Hoorah! All right, excellent. All right, so quickly, let me talk about myself, which I'm kind of uncomfortable doing, but let me just run through a quick bio of where I've been, what I've done. So I'm a Bay Area native, born and raised in San Jose, California, not too far from here, right? Minus the traffic. And I went to high school out in Mountain View, California. After high school, I went to the Naval Academy, graduated at the Naval Academy in 1997. After the Naval Academy, I was commissioned as an ensign and first was a surface warfare officer. So for those that don't know what that means, I drove ships. Right? Those big great things, I drove those for 4 years. And then I looked at myself and I said, what do I want to do when I really grow up? And I started flipping through some magazines and found this small community called the Civil Engineer Corps, also the Seabees. And I said, hey, this is some amazing stuff what the Seabees do. And For those that don't know about the CBs, they are attached at the hip to the Marines. Wherever Marines go, you will find CBs there, right? It's a match made in heaven, really, at the end of the day. So I jumped at that opportunity. I lateral transferred over from the surface warfare community, from driving big, great ships, to being what we call ourselves, dirt sailors, right? So most CBs, if you ask a CB, which ship have you been on? A lot of them will say, we've never been on ships, right? They are dirt sailors. And again, what I tell you is they're practically attached at the hip with the Marines. They're our brothers and sisters in arms. So after I lateral transfer into the Civil Engineer Corps, I went ahead and did some tours in Bremerton, did some contract management out in Bremerton, went over to the East Coast, Little Creek, Virginia, Amphibious Construction Battalion 2. I cut my teeth on being CB out there in Little Creek. From Little Creek, I had, I'm still getting points from the wifey with regards to the next set of orders we got after Little Creek, Virginia. We ended up going to Sicily. Sigonella, Sicily, where I did some more facility management, public works functions out in Sigonella, Sicily. If you've never been there or tried their wine, I would recommend it. Highly recommend Sicilian wine. After Sicily, I got promoted to lieutenant commander there, and they said, hey, you have to go back to school. So I did a year at NC State, North Carolina State, the Wolfpack. I got my construction management, master's in construction management. From there, I got plucked to go back to NMCB 4, Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 4, out of Port Hueneme. So this is the second time I've been in Port Hueneme. I did a stint there at Port Hueneme. I'll go into it a little bit more when I was with NMCB 4, and all of the deployments that we did were fantastic. But again, I'll go back into that. After NMCB 4, they ended up plucking me to 1st Naval Construction Division, which was the CB headquarters. It was one of those, I really didn't want to go. Nobody wants to go to higher headquarters, right? Nobody does. But they plucked me and said, hey, you've got an interesting set of skills. We need you to go to headquarters and manage the whole CB force. From 1 NCD, I went to Oceana, Public Works Oceana, and that's in Little Creek, Virginia Beach. Did some time there. After that, I went to the Pentagon, served, did my time at OPNAV. It's interesting, all of the wheelings and dealings that you'll see at the Pentagon and what happens behind closed door sessions between flag officers, general officers, and the higher ranking civilians. But it really opened my eyes. It kind of helped me connect the dots, but realize it's all about the relationships that you build and all of the ability to communicate and articulate your requirements and your desires. But again, so after OPNAV, I ended up getting picked for an interesting set of orders. 1 year unaccompanied to be the executive officer / public works officer out in Poland. So I don't know how many folks know about the ballistic missile defense system that's been developed in Romania, and now it's being developed in Poland. So I did the groundbreaking out in Poland. We're maybe a year and a half before that goes live, but again, some interesting stuff. Got the opportunity to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, Ballistic Missile Defense Agency, but the tour in Poland for 1 year was great. I was able to bring the family out there, so I now love beets, vodka, and pierogies. Not a bad mix, right? So not a bad mix. So that in a nutshell, and of course, my current command, I've been here 4 months, and it's flown by really quick. Just got picked up for command, so I'm the commanding officer at Naval Construction Training Center at Port Hueneme. So if you guys are ever on base looking at the CB Museum, right next door to the CB Museum is my facility, my compound. I would recommend, if you guys have the time, come on by. I'd love to have you in my office and we can chat some more. But again, it's the CB Schoolhouse. That's what I call it, the Little Green Schoolhouse. It's where we have all of the young sailors that graduate boot camp and want to be CBs. They come to us and we train them. I've got a cadre of incredible staff and instructors who will teach these young sailors to become CBs. And after that, they will go on to the battalions or all to the different operational units out there. So that's where I'm at right now. I think I've got about a year and a half before they push me out again, right? So they're called orders, not invitations. So I will go wherever they need me. So that's me in a nutshell. So what I'm planning to do here is I'm going to go through my speech here, and then I want to try something a little bit different because this is a lively bunch. I noticed there's a bunch of guys, that table in the back, somebody's got to keep an eye on them. But I would say, yeah, everybody, those guys, yes. I'm a little scared. I think, did you guys all eat your dinner rolls? I don't want you throwing those at me. But then we'll go into some sort of question and answer. If you've got any burning questions, if there's any comments that you want to ask me, feel free, I'm game. I will try to answer them to the best of my ability, or I'll pass it to my senior chief over there. But again, so first of all, wow, this is unbelievable. First, I'm honored and humbled to stand before you all. I want to thank LULAC, what a great organization, for inviting me and accepting me. It was kind of funny at first. So I talked to our base PAO, and I was like, wow, somebody wants me to stand in front of folks and speak. That's great. LULAC, what's LULAC? And then so she said, United Latin American Citizens. I'm like, huh. So this is full disclaimer for everybody here, okay? Please don't ask for your money back. But I said, well, that's fantastic. I will do it as long as they realize that, yes, my last name, my full name is deceiving. I'm Filipino, not Latino. So she said, hey, Commander, hold up a little. We'll call, but I think you'll be fine. So I got the thumbs up, I got the green light. So again, full disclosure, Filipino, not Latino, but we're pretty darn close, right?
Yeah, but you're still welcome in our group, sir.
Yeah, no, this is great. So again, thank you for having me. Officially, my full name is Rafael Arturo Luis Hidalgo Miranda I. So, but again, it's this tight-knit community that I always love being a part of, and you guys feed me a lot of great energy here. So to the young men, the color guard, thank you very much. That was awesome. That was incredible. To the students, to the first responders, to the police, fire department, incredible meal. To the students, thank you very much for volunteering your hours. Have you guys had the chili yet?
Yes.
There's a whole vat of chili. I would recommend having some more chili. I asked for a cup of chili, and it's fantastic. Instead of a cup of coffee, it's great. So, by all means, if you're still eating, please keep eating. If there's a whole dessert table back there, whoever made the dessert, well done. It was very, very tasty, and I'll probably go back there here soon. But again, so to everybody here, thank you. Good evening, and to the veterans, thank you for your service. To the rest of the crowd, thank you for coming out to support your companies, our heroes. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure that your presence resonates well with our veterans this evening. So, we kind of live in some very interesting times, right? Back in the day, I'll say back in the day, we had two countries that we called superpowers, right? USA and the Soviet Union at that time, right? Today, we have many players, many superpowers to include China, North Korea, India, Pakistan, Iran, and even those violent extremist organizations that are out there. We also live in a fiscally constrained environment, right? That affects our services across the board. So what that does, it becomes very challenging. So many of you have heard of the goal of a 300-ship Navy. Well, it's very tough in this type of fiscally constrained environment to get the resources to keep up with the maintenance, the upgrades that will keep our military one step ahead of our competition. Right? I mentioned I was at OPNAV. I've seen the posturing, the politics, the red tape, the bickering back and forth associated with all these different scenarios. So, but despite the challenges, we all need to realize that our most precious commodity, our most coveted resource, is abundant. We have plenty of it. And I'm talking about the Navy sailor, our Seabees, our service members across all the services. We are in great hands. And what do I mean by that? Well, from where I sit as the commanding officer at Naval Construction Training Center, Port Hueneme, we see a lot of young adults answer the call. They come straight from boot camp from Great Lakes and come to my command to get specialized construction mechanic training, CB training. Once they complete the 3-month course of instruction, we then send them to the operational CB units to deploy. The young adults that I see coming across our spaces, they're hungry, motivated, and true patriots. I'm energized every day, and they keep me pumped, knowing that our CB force is in great hands with these young CBs looking to work their way up the ranks, ready to answer the call to deploy in harm's way. Now, I would be foolish to think it was all me. It's never about me, never. I'm not alone in training our CBs. I rely on my incredible staff to make it happen. So it's a great lead-in to what I'm about to do here and who I'm about to introduce, right? I want to introduce my two guests tonight. Senior Chief Adalberto Marco Corona and his better half, Jernette. Please stand up. They've been blessed with 3 beautiful children, and I believe they're still in the car? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Windows open. You bring some bottled water down there? Fantastic. Okay. All right. I know that's on video, so please, that was a joke. Excellent. So, Senior Chief, you go and take your seats. Senior Chief and the rest of my Chief's mess, along with the Petty Officer 1st and 2nd classes, are the backbone of my command. They are the movers and shakers. They're the ones responsible for training the young CBs coming from boot camp, and even the experienced CBs coming back to our command for some advanced training. So I've known Senior Chief for a while, right? So we deployed together when I was back at NMCB 4. We deployed to Horn of Africa, where he was my mission commander to Ethiopia, Africa. He built a schoolhouse in Ethiopia. You talk about winning hearts and minds, it was unbelievable what he was able to do with his detachment. And then we deployed to Afghanistan. So, funny story is originally we were headed to Okinawa in Guam. If you remember back in 2010, there was a surge. There was a 10,000 troop surge to Afghanistan. So they called NMCB 4 and said, hey, you guys are the ready battalion. We're shifting you guys. Instead of going to Oki and Guam, where I was going to get my scuba quals, we were going to go to Afghanistan to support the warfighters. And of course, as good CBs, we said, roger that. You know, carry out the plan of the day, we will definitely do that. For Senior Chief, this was his 2nd trip to Afghanistan. Other tours that he's gone to, he's been to Gabon, Africa, Sasebo, Japan, and Mindanao, Philippines. So during the 2 years that I had at NMCB 4, I saw Senior Chief, who was at the time a 2nd class petty officer, advance to 1st class petty officer. That was 2010. So when I reported to my command 4 months ago, I was amazed, shocked, that what was once Petty Officer 1st Class Adalberto Marco Corona was now Senior Chief Corona. Okay? 7 years later, he advanced to Chief Petty Officer and Senior Chief Petty Officer. An amazing feat. Incredible, really. But I wasn't surprised, and here's why. So I'm going to read something to you all, a citation that he received from the Army during our deployment to Afghanistan. For meritorious service as Assistant Convoy Commander in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, Petty Officer 1st Class Corona led the safe movement of over 12,000 miles of tactical convoys transporting 16,000 tons of critical supplies and equipment to forward operating bases across Regional Command North Afghanistan. He coordinated the logistics for 210 missions and supervised pre-combat inspections of all tasked Seabees. Petty Officer 1st Class Corona's performance reflects great credit upon himself, NMCB 4, the United States Navy, and the United States Army. So can you really be surprised? When you build paperwork like that, you can't go wrong, okay? I've seen him grow up in front of me, and he continues to amaze me even at my current command. So we talk about the future, right, in the state of the Navy, of the services. Who's at the helm? Who's making sure we are ready? And who's calling the shots? So I'll tell you that in my command, Senior Chief Corona is my shot caller, my big baller. The man is executing the mission. But he's not the only one. We have many across our Navy that are making things happen despite the many challenges we face. You know, as a commanding officer, I rely heavily on my chief's mess for guidance and to execute my vision in our mission. I've been blessed with Senior Chief Corona, and I want you to know that we have many more of these individuals taking care of our services. So please, raise a glass, raise your cookie, raise your dessert, whatever it may be. But help join me in saluting Senior Corona, his wife, Jernette, for letting us have Senior Chief Corona monopolizing his time. And help me congratulate him for everything that he's done. Now let's raise those glasses up again. I would be remiss. This would be better for your shots. You know what I'm saying? Is that on tape too? Oh, yeah. Okay.
We don't use tape anymore.
To the veterans and to their families in attendance and across the world, and to all of the patriots that sit here with us today, this toast is for you. Hoorah! So again, thank you again for allowing me to be here today. As I promised, I'm going to open it up. If there's any questions that you guys may have or any comments, I'm right here. So please bring it on. If nothing else, there's a lot of dessert back there. And more chili, I'm sure. Sir.
Commander, how was it going from the Navy to becoming a CB? It sounds like you're happier as a CB now.
Of course I'm happier as a CB. Now, so that's a great question. So a lot of people, so that's what a little bit unique about me. I'm a little bit different, kind of a unicorn. The fact that I've been in the Navy, the big ships, the gray ships, and I understand that side, and I also know the third side. So it was a complete change. It was a complete change. You know, I'm not standing on the bridge saying right standard rudder. You know, I'm now watching equipment operators bulldoze, build berms, fill sandbags, just all of our CVs. So it's a completely different world. I would say the CVs are more closer to the Army, the Marines, right? So, yeah, no. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. We have a question?
I just want to make a comment, sir.
Oh, a comment.
Back in the day, in Vietnam, you say Filipino. Those Filipinos can dance up a storm and they can sing up a storm in Spanish.
And they can cook too, right? All that lumpia and pancit, yeah. Sir.
How big is the CB force? How many CBs are there?
So, how many CBs are there? That's a great question. So, we've been racked with budget cuts. There was a time where we had 12 battalions full of CBs, right? So each battalion, you're looking at about 600 CBs, okay? So that's 12 battalions of active duty. On the reserve side, we had 9 battalions. Today, we sit at 6 and 6. Right? So if you do that, my math is bad. Senior Chief, what are we looking at? How big is our force? We're looking at... Exactly, yes. So what was once large is now because of, again, constraints. And I can't blame our superiors, the Pentagon, right? The big Navy. At the end of the day, what I learned at OPNAV at the Pentagon was the CB force is a small sliver of the budget. Okay? They're all about building ships and planes, right? It's the big ships that they want with the big guns and the big missiles. So that is the challenge that we as a CB force face. But we persist and we thrive on. We understand. We know what our role is. As long as the Marines are around, they'll protect us. This is the last one? Oh, we got two more? Okay, last two. Okay. Ma'am.
The skills that the sailors are learning in their CB training, how does that translate once they leave the Naval Force?
Very well. It translates incredibly well. To be honest with you, that was one of the things why I transitioned from the surface, the gray ships, to a Civil Engineer Corps officer, because I wasn't looking to drive tugboats the rest of my life, right? And nothing against my brothers and sisters in arms, right? But what the Civil Engineer Corps allowed me to do was facility management, construction management, while still being in a leadership position with CBs, right? The CBs that are learning, like Senior Chief, he can build you an armoire rack if you want, right? He's a builder. We have steel workers, we have equipment operators. You look at all of the skill sets that our CBs bring to bear. Once they take off the uniform, they are an incredibly marketable group of folks.
Does that training translate into licenses and so forth out in the civilian world?
Yes, ma'am. And in fact, we just got one of our, the ACNR, our utilities men course, where they do all the plumbing, the pipe fitting, ACNR. We just got that license. We had the folks come on board and take a look at our curriculum and said, hey, if they complete this course, here's a certificate that you're able to use out in the real world. I say the real world, the private sector. So yeah, we are doing whatever we can to help our CBs once they take off the uniform. Yeah. Chief.
Commander, I want to thank you for the encouragement. This is from an old Navy CB chief. And thank you again for serving, Senior. Good job. And I pray one day, Commander, that we'll see Captain on you, bro. You made Captain. Hey, Captain?
I gotta wait till 1 September to actually put it on, so. I got it, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but again, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, from the CB family to everybody here. Thank you very much.
I don't want anybody to leave this room yet, okay?
We've kind of made a couple of little adjustments here. We have that coming up, and we have the firefighters who cooked our meal for us. I want to get a video and a camera of them. Each of you, if you hold on, introduce yourself and the job you do in the fire department, please. What's up? Introduce yourselves, your name. Come on, step over here. Get over here, guys, so we can get one picture of that cord on goes so long.
My name is Matt Lindsay. I work at Station 81, and I'm a firefighter on the engine.
What happened to your baseball playing?
My name's Chris Coagliata. I work for Ventura County Fire. Today I'm at Station 26, which is right out here in the farm fields. And I'm a driver, I'm an engineer.
First, I want to say thank you to all the veterans. My name is Israel Gutierrez, Ventura County Fire Captain here at Station 26.
My name is Tyler Zeller. I'm a firefighter here in Santa Paula, Fire Station 81.
My name is Dan Palacios, firefighter for the county out past Todd Road Jail, and I truly appreciate all the veterans, everyone who served this country. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Nick Botchkalupa. I'm an engineer for Santa Paula City Fire Department, Station 81. On behalf of all of Ventura County's professional firefighters, I'd like to thank all of you for your service. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come out and with other groups tonight and be a part of this. I hope that can help. So, thank you.
Give them another big round of applause for the wonderful team and the time that they came to serve us here. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Now, before you leave, we've got a couple of other things we're going to do. We're going to go each table and have every veteran stand up and give a short little speech about where they serve, their rank, and keep it in 2 minutes, okay? And we'll be passing out some medals for the top of the lapels for the Vietnam veterans. But then we have, before we do this, we have a special event by Dave Wilson, commander of the, or president of the Ventura County Vietnam Veterans Organization. If you'll come forward, please. He has a special program that will give you kind of either some anger, possibly, or maybe a tear from a few people too. I've seen this presentation twice, and every time I see it, it's more impactful. This will let you know how the returning people came back from Vietnam and how they were treated. County Supervisor Zaragoza, do you know how to sing a song for us while we're waiting?
I didn't hear what you said.
Do you know how to sing it? Can you sing a song while we're waiting for this? Yeah.
I can't even play radio if you want me to sing.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Hi.
And who knows how to dim the lights around here? There must be somebody.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Laura Espinoza and Jim Hensley for inviting us. That kind of defeats the purpose. Going the wrong way. When I mention your branch of service, I want you to at least give me a shout out, all right? Because oftentimes we consider the 4th of July as the day of the birth of our nation, the throwing off the shackles of oppression with cries of liberty such as "Don't tread on me," "Give me liberty" or "Give me death." How about no taxation without representation? That's not working all that good, is it? But before July 4th, 1776, there was June 14th, 1775, and the birth of the Continental Army, which would become the United States Army. Come on, Army, shout out. There is October 13th, 1775, the birth of our Navy. Navy's doing better. On November 10th, 1775, is the birth of our Marine Corps. The United States Coast Guard began as the Revenue Cutter Service August 4th, 1790, as part of the Department of the Treasury, and on January 28, 1915, it became a military service and a branch of the Armed Forces of the United States. The Air Force, hello? Got two, all right. The Air Force began as the Army Air Corps, and on September 18, 1947, became a separate military service. We have a lot to remember and a lot to celebrate. As the Vietnam Veterans of Ventura County, one of the things that we do as a service organization is go into our public schools and we share our Vietnam experience. During the Vietnam era, basically what I'll use is 1965 through 1975, there were 9 million plus that served in the military. Of that 9 million, 6 million served in the Southeastern Asia Theater. Of that 6 million, 2,500,000 plus actually served within the boundaries of Vietnam. If we were to have each and every veteran come and share their experience, it would all be different. And so I just want to share briefly part of my experience of what it was when I went into the military. That's what I look like, believe it or not, when I graduated from Ventura High School in 1966. When I graduated from high school, my dad said I could go in the military, I could go to college, but I was out of the house. And so I didn't have the grades for college. And so first I went to the Marine recruiter because I knew the Marines were best trained out of basic training for combat. But the Marine recruiter told me I had to be at LA at 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, how do I do that? He said, well, that's your problem. So I went to the Navy next. I got the same story from them. Then I went to the Air Force. And the Air Force did the same thing. So I was really going to scrape the bottom of the barrel, at least I thought at the time, and I went to the Army recruiter. And the Army recruiter says, hey, can you be back tonight at 5 o'clock? I said, well, yeah, why? I said, we're going to put you on a bus. We're going to take you down to LA. We're going to get you dinner. And then we're going to get you breakfast, and then we're going to take you over to the induction center. So it was customer service that got me into the United States Army. After my basic training at Fort Bliss and my advanced training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, I went on to Fort Benning for junk school. Again, I wanted to surround myself with service personnel that were a little bit more committed than what were being drafted at the time. During World War II, 2/3 of those that served in the military were drafted. During the Vietnam era, 2/3 that served were all volunteers. But I still wanted to surround myself with better service personnel, so I chose to go airborne. I was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky in January 1967. I jumped out of C-119 flying boxcars, C-130 Hercules, and C-141 Starlifters. In December of 1967, I was part of Operation Eagle Thrust, which was the largest airlift in military history. And the 101st Airborne Division is the only Army division ever to be airlifted into combat. I arrived at Ben Hoa, down there in the southern part of South Vietnam. I arrived at that airfield that you see there in the upper right-hand side. When we landed at the airfield, because of sniper fire and rocket and mortar attacks, the C-141s that we flew to Vietnam in could not stop. So once they landed, as they were taxiing to take off at the other end of the field, they opened up the tailgate and we had to get out. We got out with our trucks and everything. Matter of fact, I tell everybody, I actually flew to Vietnam in a 3/4-ton truck. And that's what I looked like when I arrived in Vietnam. And then I had Welcome to Vietnam, the Tet Offensive of January, early February of 1968. Then we loaded aboard ships to go from Ben Hoa up to Da Nang, and then later on to Camp Eagle. And this is what I looked like when we arrived in Da Nang. Give you an idea where Hue and Phu Bai was located. And that's what Camp Eagle grew to be. And this was outside of our perimeter. Camp Eagle was also known as LZ Tombstone because it was built partially on the provincial cemetery up there in Hue. This gives you an idea what a 122 rocket looks like. Many times we came under rocket motor attack. I actually had a rocket land less than 5 feet behind me at one time. This is one of the reasons I am now, I can't hear very well, except that band. I could hear that band, that was pretty good. And that gives you an idea of the whole of 122 rocket leads. I started out as a communications specialist, and I was promoted to tactical communications chief. E5, I had a platoon of 15 men that I was responsible for, and responsible for the communications not only of our battalion, but oftentimes I had to go to Camp Evans, LZ Sally, and other places to make sure that their radio communications, all the helicopter communications was effective. I was also a cryptographer during this time. The normal tour of duty for the Army was 12 months. As I told you, we deployed in December '67, but I didn't want to come back to stateside military, and so I extended my stay in Vietnam for another 4 months. So my tour of duty was 16 months. Being an NCO, I was kind of odd man out when the new unit rotated in, and so they made me NCOIC, that's non-commissioned officer in charge of a detail that would go up to Quang Tri and prepare the area for the 159th Air Regiment that was being added to the 101st Airborne Division, which now makes the 101st Airborne Division the single most largest division in the U.S. military. These are the different operations that I was involved in during my tour of duty in Vietnam. I also put in Typhoon Bess in 1968. We had about 2 weeks where we didn't have any war because we were drowning. We were accused of losing the war. We didn't lose the war, we abandoned the war. General Giap, who was a highly respected leader of the North Vietnam military, in his own memoir says, "We still don't understand why you Americans stopped bombing Hanoi. You had us on the ropes. If you persisted a little harder, just for another day or two, we were ready to surrender. It was saying at the Battle of Tet, you defeated us, we knew it, and we thought you knew it. But we're elated to notice your media was helping us. They were causing more disruption in America than we could ever do on the battlefield. We were ready to surrender, you had won." General Giap has published his memoirs and has confirmed what most Americans knew: the Vietnam War was not lost in Vietnam. It was lost at home. And this is what I came home to, and most of the people coming back into California. I was made to feel guilty for my honorable service. I was accused of things I did not do. And so I denied the fact I was in the military and even denied the fact I was in Vietnam. I came home in April of 1969, and it wasn't until July 2010 that I even applied to the VA for my entitlements. I totally put away this experience. My health issues due to exposure to Agent Orange were not treatable. They tried to treat it by civilian doctors, but they didn't understand the core problem to my health problems. Plus my nightmares and my paranoia. I didn't understand it. It's when the Vietnam veterans of Ventura County was hosting a replica of the Vietnam Wall at the Ivy Lawn Cemetery, and the help of a CB chief back there, David Ha, that I finally faced my demons. And now I'm presently 100% disabled, according to the VA. My wife would say it's more than that. There's no such thing as an unwounded soldier. It can be said of all veterans that all gave some, and some gave all. All too often, though, the sacrifices made by our veterans are soon forgotten. Or as we, Vietnam veterans, when we return home, it was the protests or false accusations. We were spat on, called hideous names, and worse. Our own culture and society were trying to make us feel guilty for our honorable service to our country. Even the veterans of World War II in Korea considered us failures and an embarrassment. Vietnam veterans didn't lose a single major battle during the war. The war wasn't lost by our service personnel. It was abandoned by our own Congress when they would not ratify the Paris Peace Accord. Our own news media, headed by Walter Cronkite, inaccurately reported the news about the war. Celebrities like Jane Fonda, posing with the North Vietnamese on the burned out fuselage of a B-52, or aiming anti-aircraft guns into the sky, was tantamount to aiding and abetting the enemy. All this fueled the protests and the false accusations we had to face coming home. As Vietnam veterans, we echo the motto of the Vietnam Veterans of America. Never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. Every veteran has served with honor and integrity, faithful to our oath to protect our nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Whenever we do our school presentations of our own Vietnam experience, I always say, you can take the soldier out of the war, but you can never get the war out of the soldier. We owe all of our veterans much more than a welcome home or thank you for your service. To be sure, these are appreciated, but we need to continue the support and care for our veterans. One of my PowerPoint states, there's no such thing as an unwounded soldier, which you've just seen. The preamble to the Constitution of the United States says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. It's one thing to declare one's independence. It's another to achieve it, to secure it, to defend it, not only for oneself, but also for others wanting to be free from tyranny and oppression. There's a heavy price to be paid for liberty, and veterans, we know the price all too well. The flowers of liberty were not watered by gentle rains or warm sun, but by the sweat, tears, and blood of those who have marched through the valley of the shadow of death, never for themselves alone, rather for all who would cry out from under the burden of oppression. I was reading a quote by Thomas Paine from his pamphlet entitled The American Crisis, which he signed Common Sense. General George Washington had Paine's first essay, issued December 23rd, 1776, read aloud to the Continental Army at Valley Forge. Quoting from that essay, it says, quote, "Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. 'Tis dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. The cause of America, in a great measure, is the cause of all mankind. Where, say some, is the King of America? I tell you, friend, he reigns above. Veterans, everyone, know the price of our freedoms, and we esteem such freedom highly and are thankful to those who gave the full measure of devotion to secure this most precious celestial article. May God bless all who honorably served and their families, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to mention too that on June 21st or the 25th, the Vietnam Veterans of Ventura County are again bringing the moving wall to Ventura. And thanks to our supervisors, John Saragosa and the other Board of Supervisors, they have invited us to have that display at the Government Center. So June 21st to the 25th, we'll again have the moving wall there. We just want to invite you all to come by. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, we're going to recognize two quick things before we go and recognize all of our veterans. Did you enjoy the coffee tonight, those who had coffee? Yeah. Do you know where it came from? The coffee bean. Now, next time you're going down Victoria Avenue in Ventura, just across from Trader Joe's, stop in and have a cup of coffee there and tell them thank you for donating the coffee. Also, is any of our disabled American veterans group here, council number 24? No, they didn't make it tonight. Charlie Foote, our commander's in the hospital still. The DAB contributed $250 towards the cost of this meal tonight, and all of the ceremonies has been put together.
Now, we're going to go around the tables, and we'd like to ask, I saw there he is. The senior chief and the commander is going to go around to each table and interview them real quick like and pass out the medals that they've got here. So.
Daniel Dominguez from Representative Brownlee's office is also going to help with that.
Very good.
My name is Daniel Dominguez. I'm the field representative for Congresswoman Julie Brownlee. So this is kind of to all of the veterans here. It's for LULAC, but it's for this specific event. We wanted to recognize the organization and the way that they've decided to honor our veterans. So this is a certificate of congressional recognition that we wanted to present to the organization, but really it's for all the veterans. So thank you again for the invitation. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Okay, are we going to start at the tables over there and move? Let's start from the right. That's the best way to do it. If you can all step over here, interview each of these persons, and if you will, because Bob Allen, KEDY-TV, is filming this for the YouTube, if you look in that direction where you're being interviewed, don't have your back to him, so you can get a full capture of your experiences. We've just captured another volunteer. If you will, speak loud so the camera can catch your voice. But at first, here, we can use this at this table here. Introduce yourself, where you serve.
Okay, my name's David Silva. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 2001 to 2009, and I did 3 deployments to Iraq.
Ray Fritos of the United States Army, 1969 to 1971, Vietnam, 1970 to 71. So, Black Horse.
My name is John Campos. I served in the U.S. Army from 1951 to 1956. Put a tour in Korea and in Japan. That's about it.
My name is David Garcia. I volunteered in 1949 to 52. And what else can I say?
What rank?
Army.
All the way.
Sir? David?
Jerry Olivas, United States Army, 1960 to 1980. Ray calls me the lifer, but that's the way it goes. 2 tours in Vietnam, 4 tours in Germany, 1 tour in Korea.
Before you dash away, everybody that sees this emblem with the rifle, that's the Combat Infantry Badge. It's a very coveted award, okay? For those veterans that are sitting back there in your ambulatory, to make it easier and we can all hear you, please come forward at the next table. Danny, would you come forward, please? And then...
Why don't we just start lining up?
Yeah, just start. And those who are not, will come back to your table and talk to you then, okay? This will shorten the process a little bit. You can tell he's a Marine, right?
Danny Carrillo, proud U.S. Marine, Sergeant Carrillo. Peacetime vet, 1979-1983, I was stationed at El Toro.
My name is John Adamson. I was in the Air Force for over 20 years. Served in Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and got close to Grenada, but didn't make it, thank goodness. Served in various air bases here in the United States, served in Greenland, and yes, I did serve in the Pentagon, and yes, I know God sits there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name is Ed Layton. I served from 64 to 67. Went to Vietnam 65 as a 101st Airborne Combat Medic. And also had two brothers that went after I did. Both of them, well, Bill served with 101st Airborne, and my brother Stan was the last one, and he was with the Airmobile 101st. So all three of us served together.
My name is Luis Vasquez. I was in the Army. I served in Vietnam, 67, 68.
My name is Luis Sanchez. I was in the U.S. Army. I served there from 1966 to 1967. I was in the 1st 18th, 1st Infantry Division.
Ray Sanchez. I was in Korea from 1950 to 1951. 24th Infantry Regiment, 24th Infantry Division, first to fight in Korea. And I'm from Texas.
Jack Calderon, U.S. Army, 1947, 1953. Korea, 1950 to 52. I was at that time one of the youngest guys that received the Silver Star at 16 years of age. Thank you.
Ray Gonzalez, Charlie 17, U.S. Marine Corps, Vietnam 67-68 Tet Offensive.
(1970-71) U.S. Army, 3rd Cav. My brother-in-law, David Valadez, died in Quezon. My cousin was blown on Highway 1. And my brother was a combat medic and brought the body home. My other brother was a gunship loader. So I had my whole family in the service at the same time. My uncle was in the same unit with me. Who are you? John Cabrera.
Jesse Chavarria, born and raised here in Santa Paula, U.S. Air Force, Vietnam 68-69. And I want to take this opportunity to recognize two of my high school classmates that are here, Woody Castro, Victor Espinosa, you'll meet them shortly. Very proud of these two guys. They endured a lot in Vietnam. I look up to them every day. Thank you, guys.
I'm Ron Fitzgerald. I'm in the U.S. Navy. I served aboard the USS Alamo, LSD-33. I was a ship fitter metalsmith 3rd class. They don't have that rate anymore, so I guess I'm a has-been. I served in Vietnam in 1969 to 1970, 3 tours.
My name is Richard Pino, Air Force in Vietnam, at Benoit, 70-71.
My name is Howard Tench. I served in the United States Air Force from 66 to 70. In country, 69-70. I was a radio intercept analyst. Our motto was, in God we trust, all others we monitor.
Good evening. My name is David Hahn, United States Navy CB. Equipment operator chief, retired from 1972 to 1994. A little bit of history about my brothers. I have 3 older brothers, also CB, so I come from a CB family. All my older brothers, all Vietnam vets. At the time I joined in 72, a lot of people were coming back, so I never had an opportunity to go, but I was a Vietnam era vet. A little bit of history about I'm originally from Hawaii. My mom was there when they bombed Pearl Harbor back in the 40s, and then my dad was drafted in the Army Air Corps, so I come from a family of veterans and proud to serve. Thank you.
My name is George Castañeda. I served in the Army. I was in Korea in 51 and 52. I belonged to the 3rd Division, 15th Regiment, and I was in a machine gun platoon. I was gunner.
Hi, I'm Victor Espinosa. I served in Vietnam in 1969, 2nd of the 25th Division, and thank you to all my brothers and sisters.
My name is Ron Quintana, USMC, Vietnam, Da Nang, 1969, and proud to serve. Thank you.
My name is Manuel Leon. I'm actually currently serving. I'm your Army recruiter for Santa Paula High School. I originally joined 20 years ago. I joined the Marine Corps. I did 8 years with them, and then I met the devil and I switched. But yeah, so the only reason why I joined the Army was because the recruiter didn't have his tie on, and the Marine recruiter says, look, he doesn't even know how to put a tie on. He said, so I went to the Marines, but hey, now I'm an Army recruiter, so I made sure I wear my tie right. And I've served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Actually, I was there when you guys were there in 2010. Yeah, Bob Griffin. All right, so thank you.
My name is Rudy Castro. I served in Vietnam in 1968, 69. I want to thank all you fellow veterans that are here tonight, because most of you are really appreciated, and there's not enough said about you. And I'm glad things like this can be done for you, for all of you. Thank you.
My name is Chris Solares. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was with the 15th Combat Engineers Battalion, 9th Infantry Division, peacetime. I was a good cat skinner, a good drag line. They don't use that anymore. They have a backhoe. But I served 2 years in the U.S., going back and forth across the country in the Super Chief, the city of San Francisco, trains. I just had a good time. And I also put in some time here in Santa Paula. I was a teacher at Isabel and a counselor at Isabel School for about 33 years and enjoyed every minute. I retired too soon though. I felt good about it. But I also wanted to say that my brother, who was retired from Oxnard School District, high school, he was in Vietnam in the Navy. He used to be the little boats that take you to the Marines to the beach, and you know, they put them on the beach and they back up as fast as they can to get out of there. He taught in Oxnard for a long time. And, but I want to give credit a little bit to one of my cousins, Jose Castillo. He was a young 18-year-old when he parachuted on Corregidor Island to take it away from the Japanese. after one day of heavy fighting, he felt something in his side of his face like a sledgehammer. And he says he did not pass out, but both of his eyes were shot out. And I remember he had a little hardware store in East LA. And we used to go there and buy little things. But he went on to become a multimillionaire by buying restaurants and hot dog stands. And his son was a decorated Vietnam helicopter pilot. So I have a lot of family that was in the military. And not too many of you, I think, went into my little office at Isabel School when I was a counselor, but I had maybe 200 pictures of people from Santa Paula and my family, and they were all veterans. And the students would come in and say, "Wow, a museum." And they would ask me about all this difference, and I'd give them a good story. And I have to tell you this because sometimes when you're teaching in a school, I was teaching about, it's supposed to be Spanish, but I did history, a little bit of history. And I was teaching about World War II, how it started. And I was teaching them a lot of things that they're not in the textbooks. And the kids really appreciated it. I think all those kids now are about maybe 50 or 60 years old now. It's been a long time. But I want to thank everybody for coming. We had a lot of meetings, Laura and the rest of us that put together. But it's always worth it because the veterans come and we can talk and we can say things about each other. I thank you, okay?
Okay, my name is Pete Placencia. I was raised in East LA. I came to Santa Paula in 1971. I was here from 71 to 75. And then it was too small for me, so I had to move to Oxnard. But anyway, I was in the service in 1964 to 1966. I did my basic training in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and when I was scheduled to unit after you graduate, after 4 months, they missed my name, so I had to wait about 3 or 4 days, and they, instead of going to Korea, they sent me to Germany. So I was in the 24th Division, 19th Infantry. It was a mechanized infantry division. I was in ground surveillance. We worked at night, and I worked surveillance in the Czech border. So anyway, I enjoyed my tour because it was a beautiful place, forest. That was a black forest, and it was like going camping. That's the way I look at it. So, you know, you make the best of it.
You were your bivouac, huh?
Yes.
You were your bivouac, huh?
I was always in the field. But anyway, I'm back, and you know, I'm here living in Ventura since 71. It's a God's country here. The weather, everybody's nice. The people, especially the people from Santa Paula, they still remember me, and I remember then, and now I'm a photographer of the stars and boxers and veterans here. So anyway, thank you, and I don't know, is there anybody else? Here we are, and then we have one more over here. Okay. Here's a woman.
I'm representing my husband. I don't know if you noticed, we were sitting at that table, and unfortunately, he is not able to see any of the pictures and so forth. He's a retired, 100% disabled retired Navy corpsman, combat corpsman, and he was. His name is Robert Polaris, and he was 26 months in Vietnam. But I have to tell you, I am so honored and pleased that he was able to come this evening. This is the first function he has ever attended for any recognition. He received 2 silver stars and 1 bronze star in his service in Vietnam. So thank you for the opportunity, even though he can't, he's just not able to make it through the entire ceremony and participate in this portion. I did want to make sure that he was recognized for his service as well. Thank you very much for putting this together.
Al Pineda. I volunteered for the U.S. Army Field Artillery, 1943 to the end of the European War.
Is there anyone that we have missed somehow or another? I see Jorge Sotelo has already left. I can't find him. I wanted to get him up here also. Anybody that we missed? Okay. One last veteran. I was up in Tacoma, Washington, in my second home, third home, second home for Tacoma, Washington, foster home. And I was 16 years old. The judge decided he didn't want me in Tacoma anymore. So he said, Mr. Hensley, I want you to get down as soon as you turn 17, 2 months from now. I want you to get down and join the service, or you're going to go to Chehalis. Chehalis was the boys' school. So I didn't want to stay there until I was 21. So I thought, okay. And I went down to the Army. The Army said, we'll send you to Alaska. All of a sudden I had visions of fighting polar bears with icicles, snowshoeing across the tundra. And I went to Alaska and I spent 6 years up there climbing telephone poles, building microwave towers, the best absolute job I ever had. Then I came back, became an instructor, and that's about when the Cuban crisis broke out. After that, I came into recruiting because my wife had left me just as I got an assignment into recruiting. That was the secret. I had to get into recruiting, Sarge, because I knew the old lady was going to leave someday with 3 kids in my care. So, during the Vietnam War, I didn't have, and I wanted to honor that, I didn't have the chance to go to Vietnam. I had to take care of my kids. But I served proudly. I probably did more than most recruiters. I had the top awards consistently across the whole United States. I really loved it. And then I went to Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara was going to fall apart. The recruiter, well, a short story, in San Diego, the master sergeant in charge held everything back. He says, hold all the enlistments back. So we're putting in, with a 5-man station, we're putting about 25 people a month. He went on a vacation for a month. We put in 100 people. All of a sudden, the Army said, whoa. They were going to close out the Santa Barbara station because of UCSB. They were putting in 1 or 2 persons per month. I got up there and I got excited about it. I started putting in 15, 20. We had another recruiter come in, we got up to 41 month. So I felt really good about it, and I was a gung-ho soldier, and I still am. But when Tet hit, seeing all those kids, their parents, their wives, and facing them was a hard thing. So he started changing my mind of how the war was being won. I knew we could kick ass, pardon the expression, if we did it right, the military way, but something wasn't functioning correctly. So I kind of changed my attitude like Dave Wilson spoke up over a little while ago. So that's my story of the Army. If we missed anybody else, I'm going to turn it over for closing ceremonies to our president of LULAC, District 17.
Thank you, Jim. Those very touching reminders of what service to your country really means. And I'd like to acknowledge our fantastic Master of Ceremonies. That's the most difficult job of any committee. And Jim Hensley, you did a fabulous job. Thank you so much. Just a few closing remarks, a few thank yous before we leave. We had a wonderful committee from our LULAC councils. And if you would please stand, those that are still here, please stand. We had several gentlemen, a couple of females, so it was a well-rounded committee. Chris, Pete Placencia, and it was all chaired by Veronica Solis, who is an Oxnard Elementary School Board member and is participating in a school board conference right now, could not be here. But as you can see, we had a fabulous evening, very well coordinated, and most importantly, the meal was fantastic. Our Firefighter Association did a wonderful job, all from the goodness of their hearts and their labor. We had a wonderful meal, so I do want to thank them and acknowledge them profusely. Thank you to all the help that we got with the donated desserts. My dear friend Olga Castro led that committee along with Dolores Duarte. And so we had wonderful desserts. Did I miss anyone?
Yeah, the flowers.
And of course, if you look at your program, all of our thank yous, including our own Santa Paula High School band, which we have never had before.
That was wonderful.
They were loud and proud, let me tell you. High school band, our students from Santa Paula High School were courteous, fantastic servers, help with setup and with takedown. We couldn't do it without you students. Thank you so very much. And of course, the vocals for the national anthem, Lorraine McDonald, what a voice, and how much that added to our ceremony tonight. Pete Placencia, photographer to the stars, and you're all stars, right? Our elected officials, you know, they are called to every function throughout the city, the county, the state, and they all try to be here for those very important events that we host. So we really thank our Board of Supervisor, John Zaragoza, all of the representatives from Julia Brownlee's office, Monique Limon, our assembly person, our own mayor, Jenny Crosswhite, who is dedicated to our city and is here tonight. Thank you. And I do want to give great appreciation to Don and Debbie Johnson, who have always committed themselves to our community, no matter what the event is. Unfortunately, Don is not here today. He served in Vietnam. We want to acknowledge him. He is undergoing some health concerns, and so he was not able to come tonight, but Debbie is here representing him. And our own Peggy Kelly, reporter to the stars, right? So thank you very much.
Take out your tickets. It's time. Gloria Espinosa.
How much money?
You want to do it? How much money?
Am I gonna win?
The winner will take home $125.
Gas money. That's my gas money.
Okay, everybody, take your tickets out. Here's the winner. Are you ready?
The last three numbers or all of the numbers?
I'm going to read the last four numbers. Well, I'll read all of them. Okay. Slow, okay. 5, 3, 7, 1, 2. The last number is 5. 125 is at the end. 125. And you're gonna get $125. Who? Over here? Okay, so put your hand up. Here we go. So that is 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 125, and thank you for all those that participated.
I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge one of our most wonderful guest speakers that LULAC has had at our veterans event. Commander, thank you, Miranda, thank you so much for your kind words here tonight, and all of your senior staff for attending, and for the missus for also coming. Thank you very much.